Thank you.
Oh, I got it. All right, so EJ, you should be good. If you can hit screen share again.
Okay, let me actually just quickly move some of this stuff off of the
Right.
screen. I just realized. That should do it. Share.
And you're good.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Is it okay if I stand out there? Because I'm actually most of this time talking. I'm probably 20 up here. So Chris was giving me a hard time. This is about software. Apparently tonight's going to be all about software. In reality, the title of the talk, if I were going to give it a title, would be that English is purple and one-dimensional. I just to briefly explain why that's so. And so what we're really talking about is language and knowledge, and how we store knowledge. I'm a software developer, so for me that does end up turning into source code. But ultimately, what I'm actually talking about is really just language and the problem with language. So I mentioned that language is purple and one-dimensional, and what I hope to demonstrate tonight is those two attributes of it, which are probably two attributes that have with respect. So let's start with what I mean by one-dimensional, because that's the easiest one to sort of grasp, I think. If you open a book, you start at the beginning on page 1, and you read the first word, and then the next word, and then the next word, and you read all the words in a big, long line of words until the end. And in fact, if you record it to a book on tape, you end up with a literal magnetic strip of one-dimensional material, and the book is on that tape. And to get to the knowledge that's buried in that book, you have to listen word by word by word. You can go a little bit faster. I can listen to audio at maybe twice the speed that it was actually spoken. Beyond that, I can't understand it. So a 10-hour book is at most, or at least rather, 5 hours of content to get through in that one dimension. And yet we put all of our best ideas into language. We write them down in English. And the problem is it's just a really one-dimensional format. And the problem is that, you know the saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words? That's because a picture is two-dimensional. At least one of the elements of it is that it's two-dimensional. So you can incorporate information based on where it appears on the page. In English, where a word appears within, even which page it appears on, usually doesn't really have any meaning. Maybe the section of the book, the chapter, may affect the knowledge, but in general, its location is not sort of relevant. So it's one-dimensional. And then purple is because we think of it as a primary thing. We put all our best ideas into it, but in reality, it's actually two different things. It's a red and a blue component, which when mixed together give you English. And what I hope to demonstrate tonight is a couple of examples of some English where we're going to pull out one of those components. We're going to pull out the blue part, the model part, which is not one-dimensional. Hopefully that will be immediately apparent. Because ideas aren't a picture. They're not two-dimensional. They're not even like a statue, which would be three-dimensional. They're 4 or 5 or 20-dimensional structures that we're trying to describe with a one-dimensional line. It is absurd. So here, I don't know if you guys have played the game Minesweeper. Full game on Windows, grids, mines are hidden, you click, it shows you how many mines are nearby. You have to basically decode where the mines are and hopefully not click on them. So this document, if I were to go through the whole thing, explains it's a full specification for writing a game of Minesweeper. And so this explains the plan for the project. And it explains that we're going to want a native Windows app, just like the original, but we're also going to want a web app and an iOS app and an Android app and maybe an app for Mac as well down the road in phases 2 and 3. So there's a bunch of English words that explain this plan. But then in that list of words is this underlying model. That's not a one-dimensional structure. It's a multi-dimensional structure. It's called a fully connected graph. Basically, the circles are all nodes. The yellow circles represent different games we might design. Minesweeper is just one of them in this case. But down the road, we might also do Sudoku or model the game of life, which is also, those are both grid-based games as well. But Minesweeper has version 1, version 2, and version 3. Those are the 3 versions that it talked about building in that previous phase. And in version 1, the only project version is for the Windows platform, because it talked about initially we're just going to do Windows, and then in phase 2 we're going to add web app and other platforms. So in version 2 we still have the link to the Windows app, but we also have a link now to the web app. The web app will also be supported in version 3, as will the Windows app. But in version 3 we're going to add in iOS, Android, and Windows phones. So it's the same information that was communicated in that one-dimensional structure, but it's communicated in a multi-dimensional format where the game itself, in this case Minesweeper, exists as a node in this graph and will only ever exist once. So if we want to know all about Minesweeper, we should be able to come to this node and follow the edges to find out about what versions we're going to do, what kinds of things we're going to support, etc. So before I go any further, does the difference between this way of representing that information and this way, does the difference between these two things make sense? Yes.
When you refer to language as one-dimensional, we were saying linear.
It's linear. Yes,
So
that would be another great word to describe.
So words don't make sense in a web, but only because one call received.
Yeah, like which words came immediately before it and which words come immediately after it are the ones that have the most effect. But then like that paragraph may affect how you interpret the next paragraph. It's not really going to have an effect on something way further down the line. Because mostly there's syntax and grammar and vocabulary. And so this only makes sense if you speak English. If you don't speak English and somebody asks a question like, when are we going to do the iOS version? Like, I don't know. I don't speak English. I can't read this. But somebody who doesn't speak English can find iOS and follow it to version 3. We're going to add it in version 3. They don't need to speak English. We can put pictures next to all these things. And then a child can look at it and see and understand what's in here, even if they can't read. Because it represents, this doesn't replace this, it's just the blue part. And it's the part that's going to be true in English, and in German, and in French, and in Spanish, and C# and Python, any language. This is the part that's true in all. It's a model of the knowledge that's represented not in one-dimensional format. Any other questions? I'm going to show one more example. All right. The next section describes how the actual game is going to be played. And it describes that we want to have a couple of different levels and how they should be configured, how big the map should be based on what the level is, and how many bombs there should be on that particular map. Again, this is an English way, where if you understand English and can read it, it can make sense. This is the same information, again, same game, same version, except now we're linking out to different levels that this specific version of our game is going to support. Maybe version 2 and 3 might add other levels. They might find that the hard level is actually really bad and add in a not hard enough, so they add an extra hard and make that the level they link in version 4. But this, in a sort of mathematically precise way, not just says exactly what levels we're going to support, but I think it's hovering over medium. So that node has all the specific details about its exact size and height and width and how many bombs should be on there. It's the same information that's explained here, but it's just it's a graph. The gameplay is the last one I'd show, which is the field itself. When you first start, you have an empty Minesweeper field, and then you click, and you don't want to click and have it be a bomb. That would just be kind of silly. Like, okay, let's start again. And do it where you don't click on a bomb. So really what we want to do is have it click, and then we want to assign the bombs. We want to make that an empty cell, assign bombs everywhere else, fill in the clues, and then continue. And so we start with an empty field. And we start with an empty field. And when they first click, then it starts assigning. And once all the cells have been assigned, then we're in the game. And then when the last bomb is defused, the game is won. And if the last non-bomb is, or if they click on a bomb rather, then they lose. Again, that's the same thing that's described here in English, but it's not one-dimensional, multi-dimensional. And this can be both visualized in English. It can be turned into JSON that now any programming language can look at. So that's where the code part of it comes in. It can actually be used to write code to implement things. But the key is that it stores the knowledge. It's called a knowledge graph. It stores the knowledge much, much, much more efficiently than English. And I'll close with a final example of where you see this in practice. Starting in the early 90s, when you Google something, Google didn't exist with Alta Vista, but if you Googled something on Alta Vista, it would just bring up 10 of the same documents. It just had lots of copies, and like, those are the 10 best matches. The fact that it's all the same one, it was so useless. And then, like, over the next 5 years, they started being a little better, and they'd show you like 10 different documents. Often 5 of them were from one site, the other 5 were from another site, and you were really just getting 2 resources. This got better. Google came along, started doing better. But really, you can think of the internet like the world's biggest book. And when you ask it a question, it gets to give you 10 pages. And hopefully one of those pages, hopefully the first one, if you go there and read through all the English, hopefully it's in a language you speak, and hopefully the answer to your question is buried in there. So if you ask when was Abraham Lincoln born, it'll probably take you to the Wikipedia page. And probably that question is going to be in the intro paragraph. But if you ask, like, how old were his parents when he was born, a much, much more complicated question, and unlikely to have a specific page that's going to have an answer to that specific question. But if you ask right now, when was Barack Obama born, it gives you the date he was born on. Because Google has its knowledge. Pulled out of all the pages on the internet, but it's a graph where Barack Obama exists as a node, and the date he was born on exists on a node, and there's a line between them that says born on. Now Google knows Barack Obama was born on that as a fact, as a thing they know, so that you can now ask, how old will Barack Obama be in 10 years? And it can not only tell you how old he'll be by looking up the date he was born and not in 10 years. It can show you an aged picture of what he's going to look like in 10 years. And show you pictures of his family, also aged 10 years, and how old they're going to be. All because it's pulling knowledge out of a knowledge graph. It's not doing a query of text documents and trying to, like, direct you to a page that may or may not have the answer. It can literally answer the question because it stores knowledge about the world.
So I remember years back when Wolfram changed their logo or their mantra to making the world knowledge computation.
Wolfram has knowledge graph, Wikipedia has a knowledge graph, Google has a knowledge graph, Microsoft has a knowledge graph. Everybody's gonna have a knowledge graph. This just applies that same idea to software, which should also have a knowledge graph. It defines the ideas about the thing, not the code, not a description of what we want, but an actual model, a queryable model. We can ask questions. How many features are we going to support? That should be select star from features. Whatever format it's stored in, whether it's a data right? It should be something you can literally query. If you have a PDF describing a piece of software, there's nothing to query. You need a human being to decode it, read the one-dimensional PDF, pull it apart, build their own model, their own graph of what it's talking about. They have Barack Obama and when he was born. And then you can ask that brain questions, and that brain can answer questions. But you need a brain. With this, you can just like find the node and just like, follow it. It's a map. It's not one.
For background, EJ for the past 10 years has been working on building software that builds itself through systems like this by leveraging the fact that you can describe the software and have the software generate some of the parameters and functions and then fill in the details rather than writing out the code. Which I imagine is what you're now playing with, is trying to web this into generating software.
This is really just a description I found for what I've been calling a single source of truth for the last 20 years. So I've been doing this for 20 years. I just didn't have the term knowledge graph. That's actually a term that Google coined. They have an API. You can go to knowledgegraphs.googleapis.com/search Barack Obama, and it will give you a machine readable JSON description of Barack Obama.
Can you
When you were born,
rebuild
where you were born,
Google Sets? That's the one deprecated feature. Remember Google Sets? You could give it like Chevron and it would give you all the other companies, or you could give it whatever and it would give you all things. They deprecated that. For a little while it existed in Google Sheets and it disappeared forever. I'm just saying.
Excel has
Yeah.
Excel is doing so much crap. I saw, and yes, that's tangent.
I'm just saying, bring sets.
Yeah,
back.
it's all
Bring
based.
still on
It's
Google
all
Sets.
based on knowledge graphs. If you have a knowledge graph, you can answer not just questions that are directly in there, but you can make all these inferences by following the knowledge around. And the only thing you have to agree is that Obama exists, and if that date happened, and then you draw a line between them that says born on it, that's the end of the discussion. There's no like where he was born gets more complicated. So there you might have Barack Obama, you have Hawaii, and you have born in. But then you could also put Kenya, and you could put some people think he was born in. You know, that accurately represented that knowledge. It's not right or wrong. It's just whatever we've decided. And that's what we've decided. Some people think he was born in Kenya. That's a line that exists. Some people think this. They may not agree, but that's the thing. Then the other might say most people think this. But that's really all that actually is true. Most people think this. Some people think this. This lets us represent that with all its complexity, because we can assign scores for all these nodes. Measure those lines and like how complicated it is. All of that gets here in a way you just can't do it. It's a one-dimensional line. It's like there's nothing to attach to. It's just a big long line of verbs.
Have you started the convert Wikipedia process yet? Are you gonna get everybody over to this?
I spent time looking at Wikipedia and thinking they should have a single source of truth. Once I found knowledge graph and started Googling, they totally do. They have a knowledge graph. So, and you'll see information on Wikipedia moving from the left back where the people typed it all in that one-dimensional format, to the right back where it's now structured. Where every person has date of birth, place of birth, died, when they died. There's structure. That's the knowledge. Outside is the one-dimensional.
So how does the knowledge graph the truth, the single source of truth, and not bought out by person that have more money to fix the internet that this he was actually born in Kenya, not because obviously there's got to be the weight, the evidence is somewhere, but on the internet it's really easy to see and so.
So ultimately, Google gets to make that decision. Wikipedia gets to make that decision. Nobody gets to make that decision. Their AI is the one that's typically updating those knowledge graphs. AIs are typically the ones that are updating knowledge graphs. So if you Google knowledge graphs, all of the literature will not be talking about it in the way that I'm talking about it here. They'll be talking about it in the context of search and updating knowledge graphs about the world, places, companies, people, celebrities, authors, books, movies, all that stuff. That knowledge graph, and then searching, being able to ask questions, have to be able to query that as well. So that's like a global knowledge graph kind of context. In this case, it's totally local to like, if we were building Minecraft, let's say that. All we have to do is agree on this workflow. What anybody else thinks about Minecraft, how it should work, whatever, totally. But if we agree on this first, and then this is used to create the English description of the process, and it's used to also create code, and all the people can read in English, and the code will do the same thing, because they both come from this. They're not source code, it's derivative code. goes to the right from a not one-dimensional.
You got questions for DJ or ATM office?
There is a question in the chat.
Oh, that was Dennis saying Google sets are awesome. Oh.
Agreed. Agreed.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Oh god, did you crash Zoom by filling your screen? I think I can steal it back. Stolen back. Got it. Maybe.
All right, not any pressure. Then.
Oh, that's fine. I think I can fill your I'll just kick you out. Oh, not reporting to Zoom. There we go.
Don't worry, I didn't flag your account. You're good. All right, Ryan, you want to go next?
Sure.
How Ron do it?
Oh, yeah, I guess it's.
The mic's up here. It actually might make sense to use the audio here and then just set your laptop up here. That might be the simplest. Then you can screen share.
We'll be asking for forgiveness a lot during this. HDMI.
Well, actually, easiest is just screen share.
Oh, okay.
Because then it doesn't screw up the. Because this is getting recorded over there. So.
Can I use this as a mouse pad?
Sure. Well, you can't close it though.
I can't close it.
Yeah, you can use that as a mouse pad.
Perfect. I just need a little bit of space.
You're a programmer. You should have it like embedded in your eyeball by now.
I'm a script kiddie, not a.
You might be.
Yeah. It's in my slides. All right, share.
Screen's probably safest.
Yeah,
so
we'll just do
just
the
get
we'll just do the
whatever's
whole
on top.
screen.
Sure.
All
It'll
right.
be up there so you should, shortly, maybe. There we go.
Wait for it.
Yep, you're good.
All right, cool. Here we go. Who am I? I'm Ryan Zagrodnik. I work for a company called Synercom. I do penetration testing, external, internal, done some physicals, wireless, and some web apps. I've been there about 4 years, 11 years in InfoSec, started as a sysadmin. That's my Twitter. Agenda for tonight. So we're gonna go through the slides. I'm gonna go through the slides quickly because they're boring. And then we're gonna do some live hacking. So it's gonna be awesome. Why am I doing this? I'm here to self-promote DEF CON group. We just started DEF CON 608 or DC 608. What? What's a DEF CON? That's a good question. DEF CON is a hacking conference out in Las Vegas every year. It's the biggest one in the world. This year was their 30th anniversary. So out in the desert, about 30,000 people. They have a rule there, 3 hours of sleep, 2 meals, 1 shower. It gets a little weird. They also have to remind people, you know, like prostitution is not legal out in Las Vegas, no matter what she says. Like, you know, if it's too good to be true, it usually is. So, also, I'm studying for the Offensive Security Certified Professional exam. It's a 24-hour exam. You have to hack 4 to 5 systems in 24 hours. Write a report too. They're assholes. If you want to know more, there's a link down there. So I'll be happy to talk more about it after this. So today I'm talking about Kerberos. Kerberos is authentication within Windows. This is a tweet from a senior Windows cryptography, some guy that works at Microsoft trying to explain how it works. And as you can see, you know, he doesn't really know himself. So I'm going to try to explain this, but I don't really know it either. So here we go. So Windows uses a lot of different types of authentication. Kerberos is one of them. NTLM is your traditional, you know, if you get hashes off a machine, it's going to be NTLM hash. If you get them over the network, it's going to be a net NTLM hash. SAML's used, you know, when you like go from Outlook to maybe, you know, something else. Reuses your Windows credentials. And we don't have time to cover everything, so it's going to cover part of Kerberos tonight.
This is, yeah, That's what I was gonna say. So this is
Yeah.
used to hash the password.
Yeah, so normally in like in your work environment, the servers are set up for Kerberos. You enter in your username and password. It hashes it in all 4 of these algorithms. Sends it to the domain controller. And take note, this AES 256 is going to be what we're going to be after during the live hacking. If authentication is valid, the DC returns a ticket granting ticket, which is signed with parts of the computer, parts of the domain controller. Don't worry about all this. If it's confusing, it's confusing to me too, and I've been doing it for 5 years. Then the server comes back and issues a ticket granting ticket. In this case, in this example, it's for the server.domain.com. 5, the DC looks up which user, this is in the way, fine up there. And returns back ticket granting, it's technically a ticket granting service ticket, but a lot of the documentation calls it like a TGS, so that's just what we're gonna call it today. 6, the computer presents the service ticket back to the DC, and I believe that's the last step. So this is kind of the whole process in a nutshell. In normal NTLM authentication, it makes a request to the server. The server grabs the password, runs it through the hashing algorithm. The server replies back either valid or not. In this case, it does all this stupid stuff with tickets and ticket granting servers before you finally get your authentication back. This is one of the core problems with Active Directory, and why services like Okta are taking over. It's just broken. I don't know what crazy mathematician designed this, but they found several problems with this over the years, and we're just going to cover one of those problems tonight. This is just a reference. I've talked a lot about ticket granting servers. There's different types of requests. All that you don't really need to know for tonight. But yeah, if you want to take the CISSP exam, this is on there. I memorized it 10 years ago and forgot it all. So it's not really useful to my day-to-day. This is just another graph of how the whole process works. I will be able to export these slides when I'm done. So if you're interested if you want something to fall asleep tonight, this is good material. So we're gonna skip this slide. So tonight we're going to be doing this like a silver ticket. It's normally found on Exchange servers. It's normally patched. The last few times I've seen it in the wild, but occasionally it still works. So it's not important. This is not relevant. Sorry, I've been doing this talk Thursday night too, and I have a lot more time. Rubius, we're going to talk about. Let's just dive into the live hacking. So this is good stuff. So Hack the Box is a website on the internet where you can go practice hacking legally, safely. You get points, cool internet points, if you beat some of the boxes. We have a DC608 team. Feel free to join us. We have a Discord. We meet Thursday nights to do that. We just did this one last week, which is relevant for the talk today. Also, credit to Spectre Ops. A lot of these slides I stole from their training, which I took a couple years ago. But hopefully they don't sue me. All right. Live hacking.
So the idea here is that if somebody doesn't have their domain server up to date, there is an exploit that's now known that you can forge the certificate. And
Basically,
once you forge the certificate, you can handshake with it and then get back a hash that's valid but invalid.
yeah. Once we grab the silver ticket, we can impersonate users, and that's what we'll do to go from user level to domain admin.
That's bad.
That is bad. Yeah, that is bad. So, all right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to run this tool called Auto Recon.
it'd be the equivalent of having a key for the entry door of a building and then turning it into a master key for the whole building. It's effectively really. Yeah, so that's the idea, is elevating its permissions. And it's due to a server exploit that isn't patched sometimes.
All right, so I already ran this in the background, but we can see here port 135.
Are you talking to your own computer running a
No,
server or the hacker?
that's a good question. Hack the Box has you download like a VPN connection file. So in this case, I'm connected to Hack the Box's VPN. I'm tunneled into their network.
They're hosting.
They're hosting the box. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So I should have started with that. Yeah. The U.S. will throw you in federal prison for this.
So this server is and he's storing internet points by breaking into this to demonstrate knowledge for other interneters.
Yeah, I do this in real life. I use it.
Go break it stuff and tell them that he broke it.
Then I read a report and I walk away. I don't help them fix it up. No, it's
Sneaker stuff?
yeah, kind of, yeah. I have a physical pen test coming up next week where I just usually try to tailgate an employee, and I don't try to clone badges or anything. I'll sometimes have like a fake, ID, because everyone's is the same, right? It's a picture of you, the company name, no one looks at it. And then I'll have a proxy card, and I'll tailgate them, and I'll pretend to, swipe. It makes the beeping noise. Everybody thinks the beeping noise means okay, and then I'll follow them in. And then from there, I plug in all my evil stuff and own the network. So those are far and few between, though. I don't do a lot of physicals. I do some wireless, but wireless, with people like not returning to the office, those are difficult because there's not a lot of people connected to the wireless network, right? So
you connected to the server and you're scanning for ports to find the authentication port.
So I'm on a tool that's called Auto Recon that does like a bunch of different stuff, but basically, yeah, the first thing it's going to do is look for these open ports. We see that
Firewall, right?
that depends. If I'm on the same network, no, because I'm using common. We're going to exploit
At
two.
that point, you're past.
Yes. If you are browsing from here, and I tried to attack you, from my house, it wouldn't work because the firewall would block these particular ports.
But once he tailgates an employee in, it's now
Yeah. Or like most common, phishing, like Teams has been my bread and butter for the last year. Like I'll pretend to be someone from HR, because Teams lets you just create a group and add anybody to it, right? And if the organization doesn't have Teams locked down, I can direct message whoever I want, and I'll just pretend to be HR. Yeah, a lot of them are doing it more now because people will spam them. But yeah, I'll pretend to be someone from HR. I'll say you haven't signed your code of conduct. Open this up, leave it open for me for 30 minutes too, because it's and ignore the warnings, and it says it's a virus.
Can I tell you this is a terrible idea?
Yeah. I feel really bad with some people, when they're like, what the hell, here's got a virus, yeah. What's that? Remote desktop? Yeah, I mean, in this case, this machine I can't enable remote desktop on, but normally, yeah, I'll create a user in remote desktop, and especially at the end because it makes looting, way easier. So, all right, we're gonna keep this going. I meant to start a timer, but I didn't. So, yeah, my time's all screwed up. So, so this workstation has SMB ports open, 135, 139, and I think let's see, I don't see 445. But 445 is another common one. I thought it was open.
these are standard ports that you communicate with office services. So he's expecting to see services at certain ports. If you're smart, you can ports around them. You can't find out what they are. Makes it slightly harder.
That's security by obscurity. It works, yeah, but I'm gonna find it, eventually. So all right, so we got it open. we got open SMB. I'm gonna connect to the SMB share. And we're gonna take a look around. Oh my God. So there's an open share. There's a file here that looks interesting, userinfo.exe.zip. We're gonna download that. We're gonna download that and we're gonna run it. And we're gonna look at it in Wireshark. Wireshark is a common, I apologize for the tiny screen here. Wireshark is a common packet patcher tool. You can view network information. So in this case, we are looking at the network information from this executable that was on the open share. We can examine the traffic and see that it's making an LDAP call, which is unencrypted. And I'm highlighting here is the domain name, the username, and the password. So, so I know, like, you know, like, oh my God, you know, it would never be unencrypted in a real environment. You'd be surprised. LDAP, most LDAP environments I find, they're all using port 389, which is unencrypted. So we're gonna grab that user. Yes. Otherwise, you have to generate like a certificate and like, you know, make sure your other machines have the certificate. It is a pain in the ass. I do not blame sysadmins for setting it up this way. All right.
That's part of only 2 kinds of companies. Those that know it,
And or those that don't have the logs, yeah.
those that don't have a law. That's right.
So we're logging in right now as the user that we got. We're going to upload a tool called Sharphound, and then we're going to run that and collect the information. And we're going to view it in a tool called Bloodhound. I'm running it as user level, so I have user level rights right now. I do not have admin rights on the machine yet. So this is Bloodhound. Bloodhound is you were talking about what is it? Neo4j, JSON, all that fancy stuff. So one thing you hear in that field a lot is like attackers thinking graphs, and that's why attackers always win for the moment. And Bloodhound is a tool to take raw JSON data from the domain and put it into a nice pretty graphs and then give us all these nice queries to run to show us an attack path. So yeah, well, no, I've downloaded, I grabbed this information from the box that we got user level access, and now I'm going to examine it to see if there's a way to isolate my privileges. So a lot of some of the queries I run on normal engagements are, you know, find all domain admins. So that'll run, it'll give me all domain admins. I can map domain trusts. For this, we're going to do shortest path to unconstrained delegation system. And don't ask me to explain that right now, but if you want to know in Bloodhound, you can go to help, and it kind of explains, as well as gives you all the commands to run. So it's super nice. This particular issue does not, you know, stand out to most people. I might miss this if I wasn't carefully looking at all these queries. But this right here basically allows this support account all rights to the domain controller. So that's going to be a high value target. That's what we're going to go after for this, for the remainder of this. Also in the JSON data is interpreted in Bloodhound. It's also good to go and just parse that manually because you never know what type of data will be in there. In this case, for this example, in the actual JSON file, we have a field called info, and info has something interesting in it, and it looks like a password. So we're gonna grab that. We're gonna grab that. Yes, this is another common mistake administrators make a lot is the info field in Active Directory is readable by all users. So you'll see a lot of people put the password in the info field thinking like well, nobody can read this. You know, you have to be an admin. No, you don't. So, and actually, one of my shortest pen tests, I got this data, looked at the comment field, and got domain admin on an account because the password was there in the info field. So this happens in real life. All right. Yes. No. Then I have to try harder.
How many times have you seen password one?
I mean, normally once we get in, we'll grab all of the users' hashes in the domain, and then I'll try to crack them. So we see common passwords like that all the time. You know, anything under 14 characters we can crack usually in like less than 24 hours. So
These things called rainbow tables, free hash password. Download the hash password, not run them against a pre-compiled list of all the possible hashes.
Rainbow tables don't still.
yeah, I mean, I don't use them a lot. I'll use, you know, just huge word list files, like 90 gigs. Ours that we use for our password crackers, you know, we keep, you know, backed up because it's real life data, right? So like our password cracker, if you were to go home and set up yours, you know, ours would probably crack it way faster because we've been looking at passwords for 15 years. So
Can you explain what password hash is?
yes, password hash in like the simplest form is you take a password like password 123, run it through like a mathematical algorithm, and it spits out, like in the case of MD5, it's a one-way algorithm. So it'll spit out a hash. It'll be, you know, let's say your password's 1 and the algorithm is, you know, multiply it by 5 and then divide it by 3 and store the value somewhere. So when you actually go to a website, enter that your password in, it's not comparing your password against the password stored in the database. It's comparing the password run through the hashing algorithm to the hash that's stored in the database. That's the proper way. You know, there has been a lot of companies that store that password in plain text and have gotten owned, and you know, that shouldn't happen in theory.
Catches if you don't solve the password hash, then you can
Salts, yeah.
by just running it through the same hash.
Salts and peppers are great. They're suffixes and prefixes, but normally when the database gets, you know, owned, they get the salt too, right? So like it's not, it's a good.
Mainly prevents rainbow table.
The salt mainly prevents you
The
from.
rainbow table would have to be a rainbow table. You have specific salt.
Exactly. If you were to run the password through the hash without salting it, the hash would be different without the salt. So it's another one of those things that slows people down. You know, ultimately, you should just have a good hashing algorithm. Don't store passwords.
Seasoning is important. That's really
Yeah. Seasoning.
What's the significance of 14?
So 14 characters. The way that the GPUs can crack passwords now, anything over 14, it has problems with. So, like,
takes longer to establish all the possible.
yeah, it's just so much.
It used to be 5,
Yeah.
6, then it was 7, and then they were like, okay, we really need
Yeah.
8 character passwords.
Now it's
Or up to 14, in a few years
it'll be like 32. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Like some.
For password management is important. Like password management can generate arbitrary
Yes, and spaces confuse the password cracker for the moment. Once like quantum computing comes out,
That's so amazing.
yeah,
Like, who cares about the space?
I don't know if it'll be able to be cracked in, you know, in the future, right? Like 14 won't even matter. But they're going away from.
This is why the scary thing with the NSA absorbing all of it.
Yeah,
So many years and storing all of it, it's eventually break it.
we're not gonna
Relevance.
go down the NSA CIA road right now. Yes.
We just hired IT security actually for our work, and they made us switch from Gmail to Outlook because Outlook is currently much more secure. Is that actually true?
No, I mean it's up to interpretation, right? Like you know, you can configure Gmail just as well as you can Outlook, and you know you run to the same thing. So
I think it's all. You have password rules.
yeah.
Causes users to write out passwords.
Outlook has the authenticator app, and I don't think Gmail has. that.
Google
And I
has-
also-
Yeah, they have an authenticator app. They also have I got like one of these. They have like hardware keys now. So it's a UB key. It's just another way to prevent. So I don't even. So yeah, you should have a backup. Yeah. Also, you could use your. Like I don't use SMS authentication anymore because of the people SIM swapping. So I use Google Authenticator or Outlook Authenticator and this. So Google Authenticator is my main way I authenticate. If I lose my phone, then I have this. You know, if I lose this, then I have the backup. If I lose that, I have backup code stored in my safe. I should not be telling everyone this. But, yeah, my address. But yeah, that's kind of what I do. So, so back to this. We got the user. This is the flag. So the machines have flags. They're just text files with hashes in it. And then you submit this hash to hack the box, and it says, you know, congratulations, you hacked the user. So I promise you, we're almost done. So now we have the user.
A lot more basic computer questions than Mark. I can see his head is-
Yeah.
Someone's banging on the door, no.
I'm gonna skip through some of the Kerberos stuff where we create like a fake machine. We do a bunch of other stupid stuff, and we use a tool called Rubius, which allows us to like interact with all those ticket granting servers and ticket granting tickets. And in the end, we get a AES key that we use to pass to a tool called SMBexec.py, which is part of a Impacket tools. So we'll run that.
Any possible flaw or anything else unpatched on a system. Once you get into one little bit of it, basically walk your way around.
Yeah, once I get
Very bad part. Like,
Once I get
sometimes in your
one-
email, it probably password forever else.
once I get one user, you know, I'm trying to escalate my privileges and try to hot machines.
Does that go through the same with when you have all the different devices connected to one network? If you find a way with one device, you might pretty much get each other. That's been the problem with like web cameras and stuff, things that don't have firmware, like all the Internet of Things things that have poor firmware practice, so they're not updating, like, oh, some vendor sells webcam, they don't care about it, so they need an unpatched, authentication thing or something. And then somebody like Ryan walks away around the world sniffing for, is this port open on this network? Is this port open on this? Oh, this is the port for that. Or webcam that's unpatched. And then you can run this known exploit and say, oh, well, of course everyone would patch this. Well, yeah, they would on that important system, but they wouldn't on their webcam. And then once you break into the webcam, now you have a node on the network that's trusted. Now you can run network inquiries, which allows them then to scan all the ports of the network. Because if you try to run from the internet to look at the network, the firewall will block. But if you run it from the network itself, the network says all of my network traffic is friendly, therefore I can talk to everyone. So it'd be like somebody coming up the window here, knocking on the window, and be like, hey, what the hell are you guys doing in there? What are you doing in there? What are you doing in there? We could just close the window and go. But if we're all in the room, we can talk to each other, and that's all okay. There's nobody here to monitor or protect us. So that's the firewall equivalent is the walls. We can close the walls in our building, but within the building, everybody can talk to each other. So once you're in the building, sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's on the network. Then all of a sudden you can talk to everybody in the building, and you can find a lot more things that were previously protected from the firewall. The trouble is you have to figure out what you're on. So even if you got into somebody's webcam, what's on the network and why would it matter? It doesn't matter. There's all sorts of stuff where people have gotten into places and then haven't bothered doing anything that wasn't valuable target. And somebody else comes along as a script kiddie and then trashes everything just because they don't care. They're not looking for money, they're just looking for great stuff. So some things go exploited and sat for years, and other stuff gets exploited and trashed right away. It's for entertainment.
Yeah, this is extremely relevant because of the Uber hack. This is exactly the way the guy, got domain admin. Was he got initial access through? He actually bought it from some company that sells the initial access, and then just started browsing their S&P shares, which is exactly what we did today. found a password embedded in a script. That user ended up having to be domain admin. From there, he got into their AWS. Then he got into their, hypervisors and source code and all that stuff. So, guy actually got arrested like a few days later. And I actually learned at a very young age that I was good enough to get in, not good enough not to get caught. So that's what I think today is commit your felonies as a minor, kids. No, no, that's not actual advice. Yeah, no, do not do that because they will try you as an adult these days. But in that Uber's case, it was some kid in like England or something, and he'll get a slap on the wrist. But if it would have been in the U.S., he'd be looking at 10 years probably. So, yeah, not do not do this in real life. It will not be worth it. Yeah, unless you just watch Hackers and you want to get the Gibson Hack the Planet. Yeah, so on the screen here we have the root hash, and I ran a command. It's common. Who am I? And I'm system on the machine now. So that is how long do you think that was? That was not 15 minutes. Yeah. Well, we skipped like half the slides. So yeah.
Obviously, it's just a demo, and it's a friendly
Yes.
server that's supposed to do this.
Have you tested Sector yet?
No, I only have things I'm authorized. Yeah. No, I'll do it for free. Yeah. Well, you have to sign a letter of authorization, which
Destroy all of Jerry's stuff.
I saw someone's printer had spit out a bunch of garbage, so somebody was in that thing, the network. Yeah. Yeah, that is at DEF CON, they turn off all the printers because people will do things what's called black facts or black pages, and they'll just print thousands of black pages. So yeah, shenanigans that I will not do. Yeah. Yeah, it gets ridiculous. So
Backstage, they did that, but now. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Ryan?
ask me anything, almost
What's
anything.
your password?
Password.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Star.
Is there going to be a place in the world for someone who's just going to be the password, like you would hire? So it's going to be a physical person you can go to that you can rely on.
you can just hire Ryan to do all your stuff.
And is there-
I mean, you have to log in.
I think passwordless is the future, and passwordless is, a hardware token, something you have, something you are, fingerprint, something is what the password is. So, yeah.
It's gonna be a combined.
Yeah, stop using SMS for your dual auth because these people are SIM swapping, pretending to be you at the cell phone store, getting your two-factor auth tokens that way. So if you have like Bitcoin,
What somebody can do is if I have two-factor authentication, I log in and then it says, okay, we're gonna send you a text message at your number. You can basically get your phone to pretend to be the other number. It's like I can pretend to be Mark's phone, I can get Mark's text. Or I can call Mark and say, I'm tech support from Microsoft, and I'm gonna send you a number. You go ahead and read that off to me to verify that I'm speaking to really me, even though Mark is not the one receiving it. He's actually being logged in as him. And he's telling the person on the phone the numbers that are supposed to be him receiving. So it's the guy pretending to be someone sending him authentication.
also the push notifications is just a yes or no. I've just simply spammed a lady, with like 1,000 of them, and eventually she clicked yes. And this was like a major health provider in the area, and like I own the whole network through her. So make them type in the number, and that's not even fail safe, either, because I could just, if I get their cell phone number, I'll call them, say, I'm from the help desk, I need your number. Yeah. There's also some other ways to like phish you, and then so it looks like you're entering in your password and two-factor auth into like a legit page, and it'll redirect you to Gmail or Outlook, afterwards, so you won't even know that I just grabbed your two-factor auth token. And the software handles it all for me, creates the session, and then once I have a session token, it's just as good as the password.
So
It's,
the correct way to do it is authenticated.
yes, yes,
So that's all these random numbers are all-
it is a
So
pain in
it's
the
more
ass.
time to type it.
It's not user friendly. The authenticator, this isn't user friendly, right? Like, I gotta plug it in, I gotta push it, but just put it on your main account, put it on your, if you use LastPass, put it on your LastPass, put it on your password vault, put it on the most secure things, and hopefully, that's good enough. I use LastPass for my password manager. They also got hacked recently, but like the way it works is they encrypt your stuff with your password and in this case the YubiKey. So like the attackers got all of it, but it's all encrypted, and they're not gonna be able to
Okay, I see.
for a while. Yeah, I mean I still change my password, right?
36 for 48 hours.
Yeah,
You could at least-
I should do a general advice slide. That's it.
Any other questions? Do I stand your eye, scaring the shit out of everybody?
Yeah, that's right.
Sadiq? You ready? You
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Jim. We got you.
Hey, this is Jim Witter from Egg Harbor, Wisconsin.
I know. Do you want to go next?
Well, but I will go with audio. I sent you a bunch of images.
Okay, well, it's gonna take me time to move the images around, so I'm gonna let Sadiq go first, and then we can have
Please.
you end.
That sounds better. Thank you.
I will get your pictures squared away. All right, Sadiq, you ready? All right. I think I can just mute here, and you should be good.
Oh, all right. So let me bring up my. All right. Hi everyone. My name is Sadiq, and my camera is off. Probably you guys probably can't see me, but I will turn it on just to wave. I don't know how many developers are around here, but if you're a developer and you deal with things like Raspberry Pis or bigger ones or any other like edge or small tiny computers, it would be nice to like think about like how do you access your Raspberry Pi or bigger bone or any computer or any tiny computer, and try to like edit the files on that computer. I know most of you probably use SSH or some FTP kind of thing to access your files on a server somewhere, like a web server or anything like that. So I deal a lot with Raspberry Pis, and I was working on a project that I'm currently not focused on, and Chris is probably looking at me every single time. We were supposed to like create a bird feeder, and my job was to like create an AI, a machine learning model that will be predicting the bird and what kind of bird it is in front of the camera. So when I was doing that, I found that it was a little tedious to like keep SSHing into my Pi and editing my files on the Pi. And sometimes when I work from home, I either have to take my Pi with me and then work from home and things like that, and I have to like deal with errors. Oh my God, you're in a different domain or something like that, or you have to delete a certain SSH file and try again, things like that, which gets a little messy. Personally, I didn't like that. So I had to like do something about it, or either use some tool out there that already does what I'm trying to what I'm going to be presenting right now. So SSH FTP, I don't know how many people have used SSH before, but I can actually show you just a glimpse right here. So right now, what you see in front of you, I don't know whether you see it or not. This blue text and green text. Right now, I have SSH'd into my Raspberry Pi, and I can access the files, edit the files, which is great. I could use a built-in editor called Nano, and I can just demonstrate what it is right now. So I've done an ls, meaning that just to like list all the files in that directory, and the directory I'm in right now is called Edge Server. And there, let's say I'm going to access a file called ws-config. So I could say nano ws tab, and it's already filled out. And this is how it looks like. So this is the editor. I can edit things in here just fine. I can say, I can put a comment over here saying hello, things like that, which is great, but I can't use my mouse to like deal with things in here. I'm a person who likes a good UI or something that looks good or something that I can use easily. Most developers find this really good, especially those that do hacking or deal with Raspberry Pi. They deal with terminals, so they're very efficient. I am not efficient with terminals, and I do not like them. I'm sorry, hacker. Hacker. I do not like them, so I try my best to avoid them. So as I was sitting over there, I was like, okay, what can I do? I would like a project where I can work on it. I could probably get something out there to do this for me, but I wanted to challenge myself to like just create something, right? And I'm not. Let's go to the next slide. I just wanted to work on a project, just to create something, just to learn how files are transferred and how FTPs work and how SSH works and things like that. And I kept running around, and I found out about TCP. TCP is like it's a protocol of transferring information between computers, and it's persistent, meaning you can't lose data as you transfer it from one node to the next. What you see in front of you is WebSockets. I used WebSockets to build this tool that I'm going to be showing you in a second. And what's happening here, I'm trying to use socket.io. It's a library that has implemented WebSockets within it. And I'm leveraging that to like build this system where I'm going to be transferring files from a computer. From a computer right here, or anything, Raspberry Pi, whatever computer, as long as it runs Node.js. For those who don't know what Node.js is, it's just something that makes JavaScript run on a computer. Like not in a browser, but just like any language like Java or C#, C++. So over here, so you can see that I have two servers over here, and then the last node at the edge. At the edge, there is a computer. It could be anything. It could be a Raspberry Pi, anything that you want, as long as it runs Node.js. And you can use something like this. So this is what I built. It's not the best thing that you can look at, but it's just a website that I can use to access any number of devices. Right now, I'm accessing 2 devices, and I have the best names that I give them. I gave them hello 1 and demo. I couldn't think of anything else. So right now, I'm accessing 2 devices. One is demo, which is this, so you can see the files on the side. And then the other one is hello 1, which is the Raspberry Pi. the demo is my computer that I'm using to present this right now. So what's the reason for it? The main reason why I created this is to be able to edit files. And let's say, let's try something here. Let's go in. Okay, desktop. Where's desktop? Yeah, as you can see, it's not the best. Okay, here. All right, so in here, let's say I want to create a file. I can just click here and create a file. Let's just call it, I don't know, something, test. And I created a file called test, which is down here. Oh, sorry, not a file. I suppose, yeah, it's a file called test. And I can edit it. I can say hello there. So I wrote this. It's sent to my Raspberry Pi that I have right now. It's running. I can click out of that. And let's see. So I can go to this and access other files, like see what's in there, edit that file, and come back to the previous file that I was trying to edit. And at this moment, I'm using what we call a node. Monaco editor. So what I try to do here is Microsoft developed for those who do development, Microsoft created something called VS Code. It's this one. The thing you see open right now. So VS Code is a really good code editor. I like it. And I found out that they have an open source editor that's exactly what they use to create this, what they use to create this. And I was excited about that. I installed their open source code and reused that code in my site so that I can actually leverage the features that VS Code offers. Things like, let's say, let's create a file over here that's, actually, let's create a file and say demo, and then in demo, I can create another file called test.js or text.js. So in here, I can say console. So you can see that it's already providing me with all the things that I can do. That's what I want. I want to be able to do that and say .log. And in here, it also provides me what kind of parameters I can pass down into this function that I'm calling. Right now, I can just say nice. And right now, I can go to my Raspberry Pi, go out of this, just to make sure that things are actually going to my Raspberry Pi. All right. So I can go. We created a file called demo. So I could cd into demo. And in demo, there is a file called text.js. So I can say nano, our favorite editor, text.js. So you can see that on my Raspberry Pi, all that content is already there. I can access, I can see it over here, which is great because now I can do whatever I want. Let's say I can leave this Raspberry Pi here at Sector and go home and access all the files on that Raspberry Pi and do whatever I want. Come back here and come back and deal with whatever I wanted to deal with. Let's say run the script that I wrote or publish it to GitHub or anything that I want. And not only that, I can connect as many devices as I want. So the only setback about this is that if the file gets to like 1K lines of code, that's a lot of code. So it's going to be really, really hard to transfer all those files down to the Pi or any computer that I'm running at the moment. And at this current moment, the setup for this is that it sends the text in real time. So meaning that whenever I type, it's sending those texts in real time, which is not great. I have to like refactor this to make sure that I save all the changes that I make locally and then publish them at this publish all the changes at one time after doing whatever I want. Those are some of the things that I have on the list to like change. Hopefully, if I get the time. Right now, I like it the way it is. I'm not going to be writing any code that's 1K lines of code on my Raspberry Pi. Especially most of the projects I deal with on a Raspberry Pi, it's like, I don't know, 500 lines of code or less. All right, this is hopefully you guys found it interesting. So that's all I wanted to like show. Actually, before I didn't show you guys what if actually I can access my current computer, because I only demonstrated on the Raspberry Pi. I can go to my computer here, so you can look at the computer. I'm accessing my computer, the current one, and I'm accessing these files over here that I'm displaying on the screen. As you can see, they're there. I could create a new file. Actually, I can't create in the root. So the issue here, I can't create any files on the root. So I can create all of the files in these project folders that I have open, which is all right, because I don't want to accidentally delete the root folder, which is bad. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. The good thing is I don't have that option, so you won't be able to delete your root folder. And I'm probably going to be. Oh, I can't hear. Oh, say that again. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so in security wise, the only way you're going to be able to access your devices is if let's bring up my the only way you're going to be able to access your devices is if you have so when you create an account, you get a user key and a namespace key. And a namespace key defines your space where your devices are going to be connecting to. And each device, when you run the script that's going to expose your device to the server, that script generates an ID that identifies that specific device. And that device should also have a user key that says that, hey, this device belongs to you. So meaning that if you try to like, if you run the script for the first time and you don't have the right keys and you try to access them through your namespace, you're not going to be able to find it. And if someone else tried to like access your device, the only way that you will have to access your device is if they actually have your. So let's actually let me demonstrate this for a second. So let's say that I am a new user and I want to like let's sign out here. Hopefully, I'm not taking up enough time, all your time, Jim. But yeah, okay. Let's see. So let's say that I'm the first user. It's my first time going onto this site. The only thing I need from you is your email. So you put in an email as you if you log in, if you click login, I send you an activation, like a authentication link into your email, and that's it. I don't need your password. When you do that, a key is generated, and those keys are given to you, and you can transfer those keys to your device that you're trying to publish to the server. Yep, that's it that I have.
There we go. Hey, Jim, are you still there? Maybe. Oh, he's not muted. Oh, he's gone. Right,
Look at the pictures.
we do have pictures from him, so. Jaden on the trailer, surrounded by solar. Well, let's see if Jim gets back. So Jim passed along a couple slides. He was hoping to use a off-grid solar system to power his talk, but I think he wired the battery backwards. So he's off-grid now. Oh yes, yes. But we'll give him a minute here to come back, and then he's just got a couple slides to share. And then I think that's it for the night. Unless
It did sound like he successfully hooked up to his car battery.
he had, well, he may have. I mean, who knows? He's gone into the ether now, so.
Do you normally live off grid?
So Jim is an architect in town, and then he's got a cabin up north, up near Door County-ish. It's in Sturgeon Bay. Okay. And so he is up there trying to build. It's on the power grid, right?
This is not on the car.
This is not, but his cabin.
It's got the cabin that is.
Yeah. So he's trying to play around with building an off-grid solar system and a power system just to see what it's like and what it takes to do it and how to set it up. And so he's been working with Jaden on building it out, and he's been telling me he's going to present this for like 3 or 4 months now. So he's perfect timing to run away.
Is that a boat trailer, David?
So yeah, that's a boat trailer. We mounted the whole solar array on the boat trailer so it can be mobile, so it can move around.
I just got an email from him, so I will share Jim's thoughts here. My whole evening had been about electronics and bandwidth, not enough of either. Wither out. So much ado. I will show you his pictures real quick since he's not here to talk about them anyways. But so Jaden, let's see. So he was doing an art farm this summer. So he had some art. He and his son are artists, and so they like to do paintings. And so he had set up sort of an off-grid art installation out at his house, which were these 2 pictures. And then Jaden went up a couple weeks back and they converted a boat trailer into a solar system, which is how many watts?
The array is 1200 watts.
So 1200 watts of solar panels going down to 2 batteries at 24 volts.
Yep, so 1000 watt amp hour battery bank. And that goes to a 900 watt trailer. And he plans on powering the whole farm, weed whackers, e-bike, lights, his computer. And even talked about recharging an electric car maybe in the future. I don't know about how that is. But for a small scale system, it's probably gonna work this way.
I'm gonna blame Sadiq for running too long. That's super. You killed Jim's presentation. He ran out of battery weight. He ran out of battery weight. Who's to say? So I had loaned him this is a 12 volt inverter, so he was powering it off of 1 battery to get that to work. But he hooked it up backwards on accident. Architect, not engineer, that's what you get. Anyway, so he's working on figuring it out. So they had screwed up the 24 volt inverter first, and so then he's trying to get the 12 volt battery to work. So Mr. Mark,
probably Sean question. I'm not going to say I have the same ideas as Jim, but the concept of just making one of these and parking it in your yard, aren't you just beyond the code then? For the city?
Yes, exactly. You are beyond.
I mean, except for the fact it could blow away whatever else, but it's the concept of as long as it's not.
yes,
It's like a shed. Well, I mean, there's lot line zoning.
Right, but in terms of, having this.
interestingly, on wheels makes effectively anything legal. So like our big truck or a trailer, this is why you often see in front of businesses a big truck with tons of signage on it, or a big trailer with tons of signage on it. Or they'll put signs inside of a glass window in a building, like Kaiser Ford on Beltline has that huge sign inside. The reason they did it is because it wasn't legal. You can't build a sign that big lit up in the city of Madison. They won't allow it. So what they did is they built it inside the building. They did all glass curtain wall on the outside of the building, so you can see a huge sign that wasn't otherwise legal.
There are some rules against that.
There's not many because I've looked through them. We were looking at doing a stadium display out one of our windows because we have extra stadium panels, big RGB LED panels. As long as you're, I think, 5 foot inside a glass, it counts as storefront, or it counts as interior lighting.
Right.
And it doesn't matter which way it's aimed, how bright it is, nothing. I mean, as far as I can tell, you can shoot like lasers out your window as long as you're 5 foot in, and that's fine.
That's it.
Which is crazy.
have a window there?
What's that?
Does it need to have a window?
If you want to see the sign.
No, but what if it's open area?
Oh, I think
That's
it's
a good point.
in
I think then it would
then it's a
count as
sign. Yeah, it's got to be in the structure.
Okay.
So that's why they put it in a
fine.
window. Yeah. And that's why it's 5 foot back, is so it can't be like right up against the window. It has to be inside enough to be annoying. Like you're eating up valuable floor space. But it is weird. So I've looked at sign code, and
Yeah,
it's a hodgepodge of things to try and catch exceptions, but of course they won't. Like you can have a stone sign. So like we have a stone that we poured in concrete outside, and it's legal to have a stone with a logo in it. And that's a masonry sign, and it's like a keystone on a property.
Right.
And that's totally okay. But as soon as you do it out of a piece of wood, then it becomes a sign again. So it's really inane, stupid code stuff. So anyway, so yes, thing on wheels, all good. That's also why you can do tiny homes on wheels. Because you can have a thing on wheels and it's not a permanent structure, and then you can avoid basically all code.
But does tiny home have a limit, like how long can you stay in a single place?
There are, well, you can't put it on like a city lot because the city has ordinance against it. But like out in the boonies, you can have a camper park somewhere. It's effectively the same thing. And so they don't legislate what a camper is or isn't. But someplace like in the city, I think you can't have a vehicle without it being registered. So then it turns into like, what does the DOT recognize? Like a camper legally and registered is okay, but as soon as you build a thing on a trailer, it's not DOT registered, and then it's, so I don't know that end of it. I haven't ever looked at it, but there's certainly legislation around it within the city because the city's crazy. So long story short, I'll let Jim maybe present next month. What's that? The wood? For a little while. I'll hold off till the wood rots away. Anybody on Zoom got anything they want to say? Otherwise, I'm gonna cut you guys off and cut you over. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming on Zoom. I will end the slide.